Good morning and welcome back to United Soccer FC. It's been a minute. Apologize. Work, life, uh, it's been a while. But we are getting to the end of the soccer season here. Stateside now abroad. Obviously, they're just getting kicked off here. So before Accrington Stanley, the team that I follow, League One, faces off against. Sunderland today. Thought I would just do kind of a quick recap of where things kind of look within the landscape of United States soccer. Along those lines, share some of my views a little bit here. So let's get started. And I do want to thank anybody that does listen and does turn in to this here. So, but kind of getting started here in the MLS, since they are the top division. There's one clear runaway team this year, and that's New England Revolution. 52 points, a clear break from the rest of the teams in the East. Orlando City, Nashville, New York City FC, Philadelphia Union, Montreal, and DC United. Right now, currently in the playoff spots, and we'll go into that a little bit later. But knocking on the door, Atlanta United had a pretty good win last night. Columbus Crew, Miami still on there. And then, you get towards the bottom, Fire, Red Bulls, Cincinnati, and Toronto. Unfortunately not as successful this year here. Looking out west, yeah, it's a lot different. You got Seattle Sounders at 42 points, the Rapids at 41. Sporting Kansas City at 40. So you got three teams kind of neck and neck for that here. And even if you look at the Galaxy, it's a 6-point swing for that here. But there is a little bit of gap. But those top three, I think the surprise is the Rapids with them having a game in hand. Technically, if results go right, they could be in first. Once you get past that, the Timbers, as you can see, 10 wins, 10 losses, 3 draws, -7 goal difference. When things are going well, it does well, but when things go poor, unfortunately not. Minnesota United kind of, playing that a little bit above 500, looking at their records here. Vancouver's been on a great run to move up the standings here from towards the bottom. LAFC, I think that's one of the major disappointeds. And then you get down to the 3 Texas teams where I'm at here. And what can you say? It's been an extremely disappointing year for MLS in Texas here. FC Dallas, and there's some reports that the Dallas front office stopped the supporters groups, or not stopped, but prohibited, impacted, I guess is a better word, on them trying to get supporters groups to travel down to Houston with buses and stuff like they did Austin. Austin FC, listening to, Moon Soccer, the Austin Anthem podcast here, it's a little rough for there. And then Houston, they did finally fire Matt Jordan, so hopefully things turn around. However, they are winless in 16 matches, and that is something that, they play Austin tonight. Let me say, if Houston doesn't beat Austin tonight, watch out. It's going to get ugly for that here, and maybe that's what Houston needs is to hit rock bottom. They've got new ownership who this probably upcoming season here will try to put his stamp on the Dynamo. But it's one of the most, it's one of the oddest stories in my opinion. Houston's top 5 populated cities in the United States. I think it's 4th if memory serves me correct. And yet they're considered small market. And, unlike, Dallas, that is also in a large market, but Dallas, they got the academy, and, they're selling players left and right. And it would frustrate me as a fan, knowing that, hey, as soon as we get a good player, We develop them, get maybe 6 months a year, then they're shipped off, and they're sold, and Dallas makes a good profit off of it, hopefully. But Houston, unfortunately, doesn't have any of that. Their academy system's below average, for MLS standards. Their obviously product on the pitch is poor for it here. If you look into Generation Orange and some of the other podcasts, Victor Areza with the Striker Texas, it's a mess. And like I said here, I don't know, if tabs in, tabs out. But there's some serious issues that's going on in Houston that have to be addressed. But they did make the first step in getting rid of the GM. Austin, they're an expansion team. I think fans of Austin had a little bit higher expectations than what I thought they should have had. And they've got a young coach, with Coach Wolf, and like I said here, I don't think that you need to replace him, but when you have young DPs and a young coach in a first year program, as much as I'm not the hugest fan of MLS, and how they treat other leagues, it is a quality league, and unless you're coming out and spending major cash, which we know Precourt doesn't, it's going to be a struggle. For that here. So looking at kind of the supporter shield, New England Revolution's a 10-point lead on it, so they've got a clear advantage now. They've got 4 games on the Rapids, 4 games on, and I'm sorry that the screen isn't updated with the Rapids correct score here. 4 games on and 2 games on the Sounders here. So, just keep that in mind. Like I said here with the Revolution, they're having a great year. 16-4-4 plus 17 goal difference along those lines. To me, the interesting story is the Wooden Spoon, FC Cincinnati, the 2-time Wooden Spoon winner, still hanging in there. I hate to say that for Cincinnati Soccer Talk. FC Cincinnati is winless in 12. Would probably be a bigger story if it wasn't for Houston. Toronto, even with the change, still struggling. You got 3 teams with 3 wins. Then there's a little bit of a gap to between Houston Dynamo to the Red Bulls and the Fire, Dallas, and then you get closer to the Earthquakes and Inter Miami and the Crew. I don't really think that they're in there, but just to kind of be with consistency. The Wooden Spoon, like I said here, it's going to be, to me, it's a 4-team race between Toronto, FC Cincinnati, the Dynamo, and Austin FC. I think Houston's got to get a win at some point. Just how many wins can you get? And I think you can also say that for Cincinnati as well. I think they played better than the last 2 years. Not getting the results, but it'll be interesting to see how this turns out here. So looking at the playoffs here, this is as of today here. Number 1 seed in the West would be the Sounders. 4th seed would be LAFC facing Portland Timbers. That's kind of a juicy West Coast match. Sporting Kansas City, Minnesota United, and the 2-7 seed. Probably one of the toughest matches for Colorado would be against Real Salt Lake for that here. Out east, the Revs, 4-5, City, New York City versus the Union. 3, Nashville hosting Club de Foot Montreal, and currently Orlando City and DC United. So first seeds get a bye, and then the other 3 matches get a play. Just announced this week is that MLS will have a match on Thanksgiving, so it'll be kind of interesting where they're going head to head in a Sunday afternoon match. I don't know if I like it or don't like it. I almost think it'd be better if you had a doubleheader as opposed to just one game, one in the morning, one in the afternoon, or probably one in the evening. Especially kind of maybe late night if you could have one on the West Coast or on the West Coast for that here. Moving to USL. This is probably my wheelhouse here. In the Atlantic, it's a 2 to 3 team race, I guess you could kind of say. Rowdies, 46 points. Riverhounds 44. However, the Rowdies do have two games in hand, so I think through there. And then what kind of concerns me, Miami FC is at 38 with 2 games in hand, so you can kind of see them moving up. To me, the interesting battle is 4, 5, and 6. To see who gets that last spot. Charlotte right now currently has it. Charleston Batteries 3 points back. Hartford Athletics 4 points back. Hartford is an interesting team. I thought they'd be better than what they're showing here, but unfortunately, 4 straight losses, not getting the job done. Charleston's that proven playoff team that historically will get it along, and Charlotte Independence, they're bringing in some quality players, from the MLS team in Charlotte. So it'll be interesting to see how they kind of go through. Some interesting news that came out this week here on the possible sale of the Independents now. It was rumored that they were up for sale and that they're going to be selling now. There's already rumors that sell and most likely a drop to League One, which makes sense. Especially with the MLS moving into Charlotte next year for that here. Moving to the Central, Louisville City, Birmingham Legion, Tulsa, 3 clear top of the top teams there. Louisville City, I think, still the class of it, but Birmingham Legion, with hanging in there, and Tulsa, is on a roll. And Tulsa to me is one of those streaky teams. When they're on, but when they're not, they're not. And like I said here, you got to hope that Tulsa isn't peaking too soon for it here. To me, that 4th slot, just like in the East, going to come down. There's 4 teams that are battling for this one here. Unlike the Atlantic, where you had 2 teams that were really kind of out of it. Really, only Sporting Kansas City's the one that's at the bottom of the table. But in the Central, Energy, Atlanta United 2, Indy 11, which I have no idea what's going on with them. And then Memphis 901 is the kind of team I think you got to keep an eye on. They've 3 games in hand, 2 games in hand on most of the teams, only 4 points back. Now they got a lot of games to make up in a short period of time. You wonder about the depth that comes with Memphis 901. If you're kind of putting me under the microscope today, I would say it's probably between Energy and Indy 11. I do think I'm going to give it to the Energy for it here. Indy 11, just something seems off. I'm not sure what it is, but something just seems off with Indy 11 for that here. Atlanta United 2, a lot of potential for their hair. Just like with Tulsa, they're able to put the ball in the net, but they also give up a lot, just like Tulsa does. So for that here. So moving to the Mountain, the Locomotive, Claire, I think they're one of the top 2 seeds in the West. There's just no doubt about it. I think the Mountain, what's interesting, between 2 and 6, the Monarchs, the Monarchs are the team that's unfortunately the bottom dweller this year for here, but between 2 and 6, you could still probably flip a coin. Although Colorado Springs is kind of, created a little bit of gap, I guess you could say. I think the Bold are surprising people. They got 2 wins this week, over San Antonio and last night over New Mexico United, which both at home. As a San Antonio FC fan, from a Saturday, Tuesday turnaround, especially with the short weeks and the back-to-back games that SAFC is playing, it was that trap game. Bold had over a week off, so you could see it. Little shocking last night that they were able to come back and beat New Mexico United. And RGV's brought in some reinforcements with Frank Lopez and another player from the Bold that the Bold got rid of. So as a SAFC fan, I think San Antonio will most likely finish second. I think it's between them and the Switchbacks. And I think it's that last game here in San Antonio that probably helps push them over. But Switchbacks, Switchbacks are a tough team, and they've got a big match tonight against RGV, which I think will say a lot here. New Mexico United, I got questions for you. The inconsistency. Was talked with Seek and Strike, Chris and Somos, for New Mexico United, and to me, it's you need to go out and get a faster, striker forward up top to be able to kind of help stretch it. Now I know you play on a small field, the baseball field there at the lab, but to me, they're the team that kind of surprises me. SAFC is probably, they've picked up the pace. This will be a huge week for them. They go to Real Monarchs. They go to New York Red Bulls 2, and then the next Saturday they play at Sacramento. So next 3 on the road. 2 of them I think are very winnable though. If they can get 6-7 points out of this 3-game stretch, I think it kind of makes up for for losing those points against the Bulls. The Pacific. Where do we begin? So it begins and ends with the Rising, in my opinion. They got an 11-point gap, clear team. I don't think there's anybody that's contesting that. I think the Loyal with the new additions coming in. Landon Donovan keeps finding change on the couch after saying he didn't have any room in the budget to do anything. He keeps bringing stuff in. Orange County, kind of that's, they're an underperforming team. There's no way, and they've got some injuries, yes. But you got to kind of wonder what's going on with Orange County coaching change. New guys come in, for that here. Tacoma Defiance, lots of talent, especially at home, very tough. But you just got to wonder. And then there's a small gap between Sac Republic, Galaxy and the Roots. Sac Republic's that team that you look at them on paper and it seems like they should be doing better than what they are, but they're just not. And then of course you got the Lights at the bottom that are doing Lights things. So, cool to them. Roots have kind of stepped up and improved recently here. So, they're on, as you can see, a 5-game winning streak here for the here. So it'll be interesting if they can, they got 1 game in hand on Sacramento and the Galaxy. If they can pull that out, puts them right there with Sacramento. But to me, it's out the Pacific's just Phoenix Rising. Loyal, I think, will make a statement here, and when we come up and talk about kind of the playoffs here, we'll look at it there. So looking at the Supporter Shield, and this is important for home field advantage. Right now, the Rowdies have it, Phoenix second, Riverhounds and Louisville. So, and then the Locomotive are in 5th. Now, the Locomotive do have 2 to 4 games in hand on some of the teams, and even Phoenix Rising does. But, if you're looking at it now, if Phoenix doesn't make it, currently as things set, the East would host again, which is a huge advantage. I think whoever hosts the final, it makes it much more interesting for them to be able to do. Let's see here. Looking at the Wooden Spoon race. Once again, it's 2 Eastern teams, Loudoun United and New York Red Bulls, 5-point gap. So unless Loudoun gets on some sort of late streak, I don't really see it here. Real Monarchs, the team out west that seems to be struggling, and then Sporting Kansas City, but there's an 8-point gap between there. So to me, it seems like it's a 3-team race if you want to kind of make it here. But Loudoun United, need to start putting some wins on the board to start to get out of the race for the bottom there. So before we get to the playoffs, one important thing to look at on the playoffs is the top 8. And the reason why that's important is where you finish in the first round, or where you finish in your standings. If you finish 1 and 2, first or second, you get to host the first round. But after that, it goes to best record. So taking a look at that, looking out East here first here for their top 8. The Rowdies, 22 games played, 46 points. Riverhounds second. Birmingham Legion Louisville City and Birmingham Legions 3 and 4. They each have 2 games on the Riverhounds. So it wouldn't shock me if they got the results to where you could see Pittsburgh kind of move down a little bit. Then you got Miami and Tulsa, and then Charlotte and the Energy through there. But to me, the kind of important is where you kind of see that Riverhounds, Lou City, Legion, who finishes second and third on there, because I think that's going to be very pivotal if the Rowdies fall in the playoffs, which last year they didn't. But if you look at their history, unfortunately, it has happened. Looking out west, Rising, 2-point lead, but Locomotives still have 2 games in hand. I think what sticks out to me is you look at the mountain. Rising's the clear winner, head and shoulders, even El Paso. But you go 3, 5, and 6, with San Antonio being the 4th place team here, they're right there with the 2nd place team with San Diego. So I think it's going to be very interesting to see if those teams, 3 and 4 seed, if they can maintain this pace and possibly even pass the Loyal along those lines. I think Phoenix, El Paso cleared 1 and 2. There's no question. But to me, in both of those will be extremely tough to beat in the playoffs. But for that second round, if let's say as a 3rd seed you're able to beat, you're able to beat San Diego, or if you're a lower seed, let's say San Antonio, let's say you went on the road and had to face Phoenix, and you were able to pull the upset off, you could end up hosting in the next rounds, even as a lower seed. So I think that's something to kind of keep in mind here. So looking at the USL playoff structure, it's pretty straightforward. Top 8, top 4 in each division. Top 8, East West for it here. So out west, you'd have El Paso hosting Tacoma, the Loyal hosting Austin Bold right now. Switchbacks and OC for the 3rd time, once preseason, once regular season, and this time in postseason, all in Colorado Springs, amazingly. Excuse me. Sorry about that. And then right now, a juicy playoff match, Rising in San Antonio. That would be entertaining. Out east, Rowdies and Energy, Battle of the Green. To me, and one of probably the East probably has the 2, outside of Phoenix and San Antonio, I think the East has the 2 best matchups, with Legion and Miami FC, and Pittsburgh and Tulsa. I think those 2 matches would be outstanding to be able to watch. And then Charlotte and Louisville City would be interesting. Charlotte's got some talent, but playing in Louisville City is tough. So it would be a very interesting way to kind of see that is. And then, of course, as you get to the to the quarterfinals and semifinals, those are go by best record. Moving to Division 3, let's start out with NISA. Still Detroit City. They've won everything, 5 games, 6 games in. They still haven't lost. 1 draw, which was to Cal United on the road. They're just the class of NISA right now, and it's something that I keep waiting to kind of see who's going to be that next team to step up. I would have thought it would have been Chattanooga, but they're doing just like what they did in the spring. They'll put some wins, but they're just not consistent. It's great to see New Amsterdam up there. I know they've got 2 losses here recently, but for a team that struggled, in the previous few seasons here, for that here, and then Cal United out west and LA Force. Technically, LA Force technically hasn't lost, but they've only scored 6 goals, so very defensively. But like I said here, it'll be interesting to kind of see that. Chicago House off to a little bit of a rough start. Same with Maryland Bobcats for that here in the fall. It'll be interesting to see Chicago House, see how they develop, for their first year. And like I said here, just like with MLS, USL, NISA, when it's your first year, and especially Chicago House being a brand new team for that here, there's going to be some learning curves. So just be patient with them. I do think the House do have great potential for that here. And like I said here, it's an important market, especially for NISA, as they continue to grow. And then in the final one here, USL League One, and what a story this league is turning out to be this year. I didn't see the Red Wolves being kind of the clear. Well, I guess they're not the clear because Union Omaha is right there with them, 37 points, 34 points, and Union Omaha have 2 games in hand. But then from 3 to 11, it's 3 points. You got Greenville Triumph, last year's best regular season team. They didn't have the playoffs, but last year's the Fighting Darren Pals at Fort Lauderdale CF, Tucson, North Texas, the Revolution 2, South Georgia Tormenta, Richmond Kickers, Toronto FC, and Forward Madison, all within 3 points, and the top 6 make the playoffs. So good luck trying to determine who will make that at this point. I think the only thing that you can say is for North Carolina, it's been a little bit disappointing. And I understand they went with the youth movement, but I don't think that they thought they would struggle this much here, where they dropped down from the championship down to there. So it'll be interesting to kind of see how USL League One ends up as. So that's just kind of a quick recap. I'm going to try to see if we can do this a little bit more frequently here. Would like to see about bringing on somebody as well, maybe to kind of talk, a little bit more, somebody a little bit stronger with MLS. But I do think it's important to kind of have these conversations here. One interesting tidbit here, the Austin Bolds, per the Striker Texas, has been announced or has been rumored that they are going to be moving to Fort Worth for that here. We'll see if they actually kick off. But we're getting to that time of year where you're going to start to hear about teams, new teams coming into leagues, possibly new teams leaving leagues, dropping down. I know there's going to be a lot of movement within USL, with teams going to MLS Reserve League, all the MLS 2 teams with the exception of Loudoun, Atlanta United 2, LA Galaxy, and there's one more. Forget who is off the top of my head, but there's 4 that's going to be staying: Atlanta, Loudoun. So Tacoma's dropping, so it's not them. Real Monarchs is dropping. Sporting Kansas City's dropping. Oh, it's the Red Bulls. Red Bulls 2 will be staying up here. So do want to thank everybody that's tuning in. Like I said here, listens on the podcast here. If you have any ideas or suggestions, please let me know. But I hope you have a wonderful day and a good rest of the weekend. Thank you.